Hey everyone, Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter here. Thanks so much for coming by to check out another video. The month of January has come and gone. Can you believe it? 31 days just out of here like that. And that means it's time to go over the top 10 most expensive items that sold in my eBay store for the month of January. I like doing this because I get to share with you those top sales and give you some ideas and suggestions of things to be on the lookout for when you are out sourcing. That could be when you're either at a sale, like maybe an estate sale, and you see something that maybe popped up here on one of the top 10 sale items, or it could be you're scrolling through things on Craigslist or on OfferUp or Let Go, and now maybe because you saw something here, it kind of jogs your interest and now maybe you want to pursue it. And by all means, many of you contact me and send me private messages and say, hey, you know, should I get this? Should I get this? Lauren, if you're watching, Lauren Guadita contacted me yesterday. She was interested in looking up something and getting some ideas from me about, you know, whether or not it was worth picking up. And I am more than happy to do that. So, you know, just let me know if there's something you're, you know, if you need some input on or some advice. I'm happy to share that with you. And you could also just, you know, put any comments or questions down below here so other people could learn from it as well. So there's many ways you could get in touch with me, and you know, I like interacting with all of you, and you know, having a nice shared experience for all the users to kind of benefit from. So what we're going to do is we are going to start at number 10. We're going to work our way back up to the most expensive item, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one as we go through them, where I got it, what I sourced it for, that type of thing. And you know, any little tips here and there I could share with you, I'll be sure to try to pass them on. So we're going to start with this one here. This is Golden Hawk Scientific Flying Control plane set made out of balsa wood. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here. When you see plane sets that are made out of balsa wood, those are generally pretty popular. Now, it doesn't mean every single one is going to sell for high dollar value. This is what I was asking for it. That doesn't mean that's always what I got for it. So if the price that I wound up getting for it after negotiation differs, I'll share that with you. This one actually sold for $67.50, so not too far off. And thing to know about this one is that name Golden Hawk. That is a very popular one. It's nostalgic with a lot of people who are a generation older than I am. So people, you know, in their 60s and stuff are really trying to get that item that they had when they were a kid. And so this was one that was very popular back in the day. So if you could find these sets, and you know, you got to have them in the box, obviously. The box could have some damage to it. That's okay. It'll still sell. But what you want to do is you want to check to make sure the components are there, and you want to do a nice overhead display like this, as you can see that I did here, because people want to see what's there. One thing I learned about selling vintage plane sets is that even if it's sealed, it's one of the few items that sells better if you open it up and show all the parts compared to having it sealed with the factory tape. Because even with it being sealed with factory tape, there are still some collectors that are dubious as to whether or not all the parts are there, and the only way to show them that is by opening it up, and it will still sell for the same exact amount. I have many experience of that, and even people requesting me to open up a factory sealed set because they want to see all the items. And if you could display the instruction booklets here, that is a good thing to do too. Now, once in a while, some of these sets came with glue or cement inside, and sometimes due to age, the cement tubes will rupture, and we'll get some glue on some of the pieces. That's okay. I mean, you'd prefer if it didn't happen, but it's just normal. So you just disclose that and you mention that to the you know, to the buyer. So just make sure, you know, you display any condition issues with the boxes, if there's any split ends or browning on the bottom or anything like that. So these plane sets, and you're going to see several of them here today, I bought them all for $3 a piece at an estate sale. I did a haul video on it. I didn't show these exact planes, but there were other plane sets in the garage that I wound up picking up, and so it's that one. It's the Epic estate sale that it has the word epic in the title, if you ever want to go back and watch that one. So that's that one right there. And then we're going to move into a comic related book. Now, it's not a comic book, it is a comic related book. It's about comic books, and it's specifically about comic book art. One of the things to know is that and it's an advantage of knowing comic book characters, is there's so many things that spin off of that. So a lot of people think, well, if you know about comics, all you probably sell are comic books. No, there's a lot of ways that comic books intersect with other areas that are collectible. Toys is one major one, but also these books, these coffee table type of books that are out there that are about comic art. That is another area that, and you'll actually see an art piece later on that's comic book related. This could sell very well if you could get some originals or some signed prints. This one is about Adam Hughes. Adam Hughes is a famous comic book artist for primarily for painting pinup girls. So he's very popular for doing Catwoman, for doing some nice art of Catwoman and some nice art of Wonder Woman. So, and as you can see here, I put this actually in my Instagram account once, and it got a nice reaction because people thought it was really cool. I don't know if Laura Cohn's watching this, but I know she really liked it. I love this. This is just an amazing picture right here. You could see here the two different generations of Wonder Woman kind of freaking out, looking at one another in surprise. I mean, that's just such a cool idea. And so things like that are just really amazing to kind of look through and thumb through, and you could see the original sketches and stuff like that. So this book wound up selling for the price that you actually see listed there. This actually sold for $70. I sourced this for just less than $1, and you might be wondering, how the heck did you source it for less than $1? I continue to mention, and I will be mentioning for a long time, the epic comic and collectibles deal that I did. It was a private deal where I went into a house and I did 4 separate truckloads. I bought so much stuff for liquidation prices. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, I've made thousands and thousands of dollars on that deal and spent about $700 to $800 on everything. So that's why I say, if you figure in all the items that I wound up getting for it, it's less than $1 on everything. And by this point, everything that I sell off of it is profit. So that's good for that. Moving on, you're going to see some other plain sets here, and this one, if you're taking notes, please jot down the name Frog. You wouldn't normally think to associate the name Frog with planes, but in this instance, it is a famous company that made these smaller plane sets. You see this one over here that I showed you, this first one, and I'll scroll down a bit so we could get that back in. This was actually a much longer set, a much bigger set. It was probably like this big, whereas the Frog set that you see over here is really about this big, much, much smaller. So it's kind of like a mini set. But they are very popular. There are purely collectors of Frog plane sets. They're from the 50s and 60s. And once again, if you can try to open them up and display them like you're going to see here, this is helpful. Now, I've had these Frog sets. All the Frog sets I actually have are sealed. Now, I've opened them up, and I have had them where I've listed them sealed for $74.99, and they're not selling. I'm having lots of watchers, but they're not selling them. And then I started having people ask me, could you open them up so we could see inside? So I said, what the heck? I have a lot of these. I bought for $3 a piece. I'll take one. I'll experiment with it, and I'll open it up, and I'll see what happens. And sure enough, boom, sale. So $74.99 for this tiny little vintage plane set, but they're hard to find now. And these are the little, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit for you, see if I could get a bigger view. These things down here, these are the little cement canisters, and you could see here that they ruptured a bit. Now, in this instance, they did not cause any damage to any of the items here. A lot of times what they will do is they may stick, the cement may stick to the papers, and it may cause a little hole in the paper, or the cement may leak out onto one of the plastic parts. If that happens, just use your fingernail and rub it off, and that cement being dried for so long, for decades, will usually just rub right off, so it won't be a big problem. Just let the buyer know that the cement tubes ruptured, you're including them for posterity's sake, and that they could certainly obviously go out and get their own cement and use that to complete the set. No real collectors expecting they're going to buy 60-year-old cement and that it's going to work. I mean, they know that. So this just kind of comes with the territory. So that's that one there. And then another one I want you to pay attention to, and this will be the last plane set I'm going to show you, is the Berkley Super Whirlaway AB. Now, forget the part that says Super Whirlaway AB. The part I want you to focus on and be able to recognize is, one, the word Berkley, and two, an easy way to recognize it is this red and white candy cane type of pattern box. That is key. All the Berkleys that I have seen look like that. I mean, there may be an example of one that's different, but at least the ones that I purchased, they all have that same look. This one sold in literally hours for $74.99. I then put up another one because I had two of them. So same thing, sold within hours for $74.99. So it is a great investment if you could pick these things up. Try not to spend tons of money on them. You could go up to $10 a piece. I was fortunate I was able to get them for $3 each, but you could pay up a little bit for them because you're gonna have a nice return on investment. A lot of them, especially these right here, will ship out first class. You just protect them with two pieces of strong cardboard on the outside, and you could tape wrap it really nicely. Now, if you want to put it in a box, you certainly can, and it will still keep it under first class. But sometimes some of these bigger boxes may get up to over 16 ounces, and so you'll have to ship it out priority. But again, with $75 price tag on it, that's that's not that big of a deal. So that's it for the plane sets. I wanted to just give you some examples of some of those in case you come across it. Now you have some ideas of some company names to be on the lookout if you see them. Trust me, you will come across plane sets when you are outsourcing. At some point, you will come across them, so it's good to have this in your notes somewhere. Now, the next one I have showed her many times before on my Instagram account and on here a few times is Lady Death. Now, this is a very special edition of Lady Death. It is a #1 issue, and it is from 1994. It's called a commemorative comic, and the reason for that is that it is signed in 3 places by people who were very heavily involved in the creation of the comic. Most importantly, Brian Pulido, and that's his signature right down here. And you'll see here that this one comes with a certificate of authenticity. So anytime you could have a certificate of authenticity with a signature, that is going to help you out a lot in terms of price value. Now, this one here, Lady Death, sold for the price you see there, $85. So that is that is a nice sale right there. Lady Death, I make a lot of money with Lady Death. Both in terms of art and in terms of her comic books. She's still very, very collectible. So keep an eye out for Lady Death in your travels. If you ever look through a comic collection and you see a lot of Lady Death in there, as long as it's a good, it's in good condition, that could be something you may want to invest in depending on the price. All right, the next one here, I talked about comic art earlier, and this is a very interesting piece of comic art by a Brazilian artist named Fabio. And Fabio's signature is over here somewhere. Where is it? It's down here. Now, it's going to be hard for you to see it because it's, even with me enlarging it, it's pretty small down here. But what this is basically it's a girl spread, a girl pinup kind of spread of girl superheroes. So we have some that would be pretty familiar to you, like we have Wonder Woman here, and we have a Batgirl here, but of course she's wearing a bikini, and we have Zatanna, and we have Lady Flash, and we have Hawkgirl, and we have Dawnstar. I mean, there's so many different characters. You could look these people up if you want. I mean, there's Vixen, there's Black Canary. These are the names of some of these characters you want to start jotting down and getting yourself familiar with. I think I mentioned Lady Flash. There's Wonder Girl. There's lots of different female comic book characters here. Now, to be honest, I thought that this would sell for more, and in my title for it, I didn't put specific characters in there. I could have done that, and I could have, increased the amount of viewers I would have had, but the reason I didn't do that is because even with me, putting it out the way I did here, original DC female superhero double page signed colored sketch comic art Fabio, I still had tons of viewers coming into this and viewing it. And, eventually it wound up selling for $85. That is the price I wound up taking for it. So, I was happy with it. These two pieces, they just fold in on one another, so it made it easy to ship. Just bubble wrap it, protect it with strong cardboard on each side. I have a YouTube video about that. But anytime, and I guess famous for getting this type of stuff is these kind of making money off of these scantily clad women pictures. But that's one of the things. It sells. It really sells. It sells for good money. So as long as it's a genuine product, unlike some of those Jack Daniels signs that I had at one point, you'll be fine with selling this stuff. If there happens to be any nudity, the thing I will tell you about it, you still could list it on the regular eBay page. You just have to cut out and crop certain areas that are private, so that it doesn't so that it doesn't show up invisible for kids or anyone else who's coming through to look at it. Or else you're going to have to move it into eBay's adult category, which I don't like doing. I've only done that once, and then with some adult themed comic books. And the reason for taking it out of there is because I just haven't found that things in there sell well. Not that I've tried to sell tons of stuff there, but I find it just much easier to just crop stuff out and put it on the regular eBay page. You just have a much greater audience engagement by putting it there. So there is that. That was also sourced from that same collection that I wound up getting this from, and so that's what I'm talking about. There was just so much stuff. I mean, I literally, if you could just imagine this, I had this big giant folder. I mean, it's just a huge folder, like this big, and I just kept filling it and filling it and filling it with original signed art pieces. It was crazy. I don't even know how long it's gonna take me to go through it. So every once in a while, I just take a piece out and I just go through it and I list it and I describe it. I do a little bit of research on it, and they're all selling for for pretty good value. So it's just the gift that keeps on giving with that art collection. In fact, this is another piece of it right here, and that's the actual sale price, $129. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this character is not one you're gonna most people are going to recognize. It's Lady Pendragon. She doesn't even come from DC or Marvel. She's from an independent comic run, and I'll click on it so maybe you get a better look at her here. But she does have a small following, a relatively small following, because she's still in that fantasy realm where there's dragons and wizards and and all that type of stuff. So there are people who still like that stuff. It's a woman character, so she does appeal to women, and she does also appeal to men who are attracted to the character in certain ways, and so they and they admire the art, and so they want to have it as part of their collection. This is actually an original splash page layout. So a splash page is basically a page in a comic book or two pages in a comic book that are taken up by one big panel. So if you wanted to, I mean, this could be one tiny panel of a comic book, but it turns out that this is actually a splash page from, I believe, issue number 5 of Lady Pendragon, and it's signed down here, as you could see. Hopefully it's right, I don't know, it's right on the bottom there. I got to move this so you could see it, but the bottom middle part of the page is John Stinsman's autograph, and this actually came from an auction house. From that collectibles haul they did, the person bought it from an auction house, and the auction house receipt with the auction number and all that stuff was still there. It was still part of this, and was just sealed in like an envelope. And so I had all that information that I was able to enter into the listing, and that's the kind of thing that if you have that will help you make that high dollar sale. So even though she's not a super popular character, she does have some things going for her. And being that the artist, John Stinsman, is is relatively popular. All those things together helped combine to get that $129.99 sale price. So happy with that one. That one just sold actually the other day. So that one stayed in New York actually. So we've got that one. You can see the size there, 22 by 17. Okay, so now we're getting into the top three. Top three. This was one of my absolute favorite ones to ever sell, and I'm so glad that I do these haul videos because I have them on video. So once they're gone and I've sold them and I've given them to a new owner, this one also stayed in New York, fortunately for me, because that kept the shipping surprisingly low on this thing. I mean, you would think this thing cost like a ton of money to ship. It didn't. So shipping, I think, was about 15, 16 bucks on this thing, believe it or not. Again, because it fortunately stayed in New York. Now, this one, I'll give you a broader view of it if this is the first time you're coming across this item. Some of you, it's going to be very familiar. But this is a Craftsman vise that was made in Japan. These were sold by Sears, actually, in the 1980s. And they were popular back in the day, and so a lot of people remember those, and you know, they try to go back and they try to get one. They don't make at least the ones I've seen, Craftsman vices. I mean, not that they're bad, but you know, these kind of more vintagey ones, I mean, people just love them, especially the ones that were made in Japan. And the thing about this one that I have a lot of fun thinking back to is that this wasn't just laying out the estate sale. If you go to the haul video where I found this, what you will find is that I went to the basement of an estate sale, and it was basically fully attached to the workbench. And there wasn't a lot of things down at that estate sale to get, but I did quickly recognize when I went down there, for example, that there were some pencil sharpeners attached to the wall. So I took my screwdriver out, popped those out, put them in a bag. Got a bunch of vintage tools that I wound up, getting to sell, and also got this. And when I went up and finally, after disentangling this, because I had to do some work to get it loose. I had to use some tools that were available at the sale and ones that I had to disconnect this from the workbench, and it wasn't easy to do. So it did require some effort on my part. I finally extracted it, got it out, brought it upstairs, and the estate sale dealer, who fortunately I have a good relationship with, said to me, well, I don't think the owners intended to have that sold because it's part of the bench, but you know what, since you took it off, you could just have it. So she's like, for everything here, and so that includes the pencil sharpeners too. She charged me somewhere between $30 and $40 for it. And I sold one of those pencil sharpeners that I bought attached to a wall for 40 to 50 bucks. So I had all my money back with the pencil sharpener. So this one, whatever I was able to get for it was just profit. I wound up taking a couple bucks off this one. This one sold for $135. So that was a good deal. Very happy with it. I have a whole video, by the way, not too far back, on how I actually packed this thing up. So if you're curious about how you could pack up big, heavy, because this was like a 42-pound object. If you're curious how I packed this up, and I'll give you a horizontal view of it as well, you could see there. It was possible to do. I got a big giant computer box, as you'll see from that video, and just protected it with bubble wrapping and padding, and made sure that wood handle was really protected so it wouldn't break, and off it went. Got positive feedback, and I made, when all said and done on that one, with the shipping and the fees, I made $100 on it. So very, very happy with that sale. Love it. And that leaves us with the next two. Just going to take a little drink of water here. If Noel Griffiths is watching, no Mountain Dew right now, just some water. So anyway, that feels good to have that water, I'll tell you. All right, so the next two, that leaves us with this one, which I also have a lot of joy in looking back on and reminiscing, because I found this one, this old Batman. So this is from 1948. It's difficult to find, so it is high in demand and it is low in supply, and that's perfect. That helps you, when you're trying to get high value out of your comic books. Now the problem with this one, though, is that it is pretty beat up. You could see there's whole chunks missing from the corner of the book down here as well, but what it has going for it is that the cover's still attached. It still has a nice bright color on it. There's nothing essential from the cover that's missing. For example, let's say Batman's head was ripped off the cover. That would be a problem. This little corner missing, not that big of a deal. Little piece down on the left corner missing, not that big a deal. Front cover is way more important than the back cover. Another thing that's important that you want to emphasize if you ever come across an old book like this, which I happen to found in an old barn. I found it in an old barn in an estate sale. It was mixed in with a whole bunch of other like Roy Rogers comic books and Gene Autry comic books, a lot of westerns. This was the only superhero one there, so I just threw it in with the whole lot, and the estate sale dealer just wound up giving it to me for like this was when I bought the planes too, so she wound up just giving it to me for like $20 for all the comics. It was like a big giant box of comics, so it was definitely a good pickup. And the back of it was in pretty rough shape, and I think when the dealer saw that, I mean, that helped just in terms of the person just thinking it probably wasn't worth much. But it is a complete book, and it has an early appearance here of the Joker. And so these are the types of things you want to play up in your listings. You want to let people know, hey, it's complete. Hey, the colors are still bright. Hey, it has the Joker in it. Those types of things. You want to make sure you mention that. You also obviously have to acknowledge the wear. And you could see that on the back. Like, this is much worse. You could see that we have a rip on the back. We have a big giant chunk missing out over here. So all of that really does detract from the value of the comic book. That being said, because the demand is high and because the supply is low, simple economics, even these condition issues still did not prevent me from being able to get $140 out of this comic book. One comic, pretty destroyed in terms of some elements of the cover, but it had enough going for it that it was still able to retain a decent value, especially considering what I paid for it. And that leaves us with the last item, number one. I would do a drum roll, but I do have a subscriber who does not like when I bang on the table, so I will spare you of a literal drum roll, but drum roll please. And this is number one. As you can see there, that is Daredevil. Now, we haven't talked about Mr. Murdock here, also known as Daredevil. He is blind. He is a blind superhero, and he uses a little cane to help him get around, but it's a really cool cane that he uses. I don't see it here in any of the pictures, but he does use one. And these are old books. The way you could tell that is you could see the price sticker on them is 12 cents, or price tag, I should say, not literally a sticker. And many of them are consecutive, and so that does help in terms of making the sale. They are relatively hard to find. Now, these are ones that I didn't make profit on. What I mean by that is these were my get my money back books. In other words, sometimes when I buy comic book collections, I buy many boxes at once, and the ones I bought were all vintage books, and I had a strong suspicion that if I picked up these books, I'd be able to sell them for anywhere between $2 and $2.50. And then there was another book that I had that I thought I'd get about $100 out of, and I did. And so I wound up getting the entire collection for $300. So selling these right here and selling that other book helped me get all my money back. And so now once I sell all those other ones off, then those will be my profit books. And I like to show that to you because a lot of times, and you probably noticed this when I was going through a lot of these items, I said to you, well, I already made my money back on these. I already made my money back on these. And the reason for that, and I say that, is because that's what you want to do. You want to get your money back fast so that then, you're in the profit range and you could just kind of relax. So a lot of times, by the time you see that I've listed something, I have already got my money back. But on this one, hung around, I'd say I went through maybe one cycle. And, I think I started it at $2.99 and I just lowered it like $5 each week or something like that. I might have started a little higher, but ultimately a sale price of $2.30 is what I got for it. I'm very happy with that. So that's the general overview of the top 10 list. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you see we've got some notifications here I have to get to. Many people writing in, commenting, that sort of stuff. Love it. Let me know. I love to know what your favorite item was. If you stuck with me this far, let me know what your favorite item was that I found. If you have any questions, let me know. Make sure you hit the like button. subscribe to the channel, continue to try to grow. We just hit 2,500 subscribers today. Earlier, well, I shouldn't say today because now it's technically February 1st. But when I woke up yesterday morning on the 31st, it was 2,500. So picked up another 7 today, but I'd like to gain more. So if you could do me a favor, if you know anyone else who's a reseller who's not subscribed to this channel, please let them know and come over here. I have over 320 videos designed to help people with their reselling business, and love getting to know all of you. So thank you very much for that. And I'm going to head out. I've got some processing to do, and maybe even try to get some more listings done, even though it is 1:30. But that's still relatively early for me. As many of you know, sometimes I come down here 4:30, 5:30 and make the video. So I'm getting a jump start on the night. And come by to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. We got lots of exciting activities going on there, including a giveaway right now for a 3-inch tape gun and a pack of 6 rolls of 3-inch tape. So it's very easy. Just subscribe to this channel if you want to be involved in that contest, and put a screenshot to it in the Facebook group and you're in the contest. And then if you want to get an extra entry, just tag 3 people on my Instagram account. That's at prime_time_treasure, and let them know about the contest, and that will give you an extra entry. So hope you found all this information helpful, and I will see everyone back at the next video. See you later, everyone.